My guest today, Lois Wyant, is not just a wonderful entrepreneur with a great story, but she's also the creator and host of the Giant Builders podcast. And that hit all the areas that are so important: your faith, your family, your business, and of course, also health and wellness. Welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me. This is a blessing.
I recently was on your podcast as a guest, and this is how we found out more about each other. And I said, yeah, you have to come on this one too and share your story and expertise with my audience. Where are you from originally, and where do you live now?
So I'm originally from Indiana, grew up there and all, and then moved just almost 2 years ago to North Carolina to be closer to grandchildren. Not the children, but the grandchildren.
Of course. The precious children, when they come into your life. And then later on, of course, grandchildren are just so precious to have around and also be a role model, which I think it's very important. And even if you don't have your own children, I have no children of my own, but for 20 plus years, I was actively working with children and teens through my performing arts school and was able to be the role model in that capacity. So no matter what, we can always be role models, right?
Yes, I mean, I think it's important because I don't know that the youth of today have all positive role models. So I think we should be stepping in and friending them, as they're growing up and encouraging them and maybe giving them something that they're not getting either at home or at school, or even if it's a teenager, maybe it's not something they're getting at work, but being an encouragement to the youth.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And especially in the time that we live in, of so much division and everything that we see in this country and around the world. It's not just this country. And I just had a discussion about that with someone saying, okay, what can we do? And it comes back down to being the role model, because at the end, and that's what this podcast is about, we have to become the person we are meant to be, to live the life we are destined to live. And with that is going back to our roots, humanity, faith. And no matter what religion, but knowing that we all have a spark of divine within us. And yeah, and so many people forget that or have not been reminded. And we can do that. We can do this with podcasts like this and also businesses that have a positive impact. So tell me about your business that you are in right now and how you help others to become their best self in business and life.
I am the owner of JFT Web Marketing, and we really focus on businesses that depend on the near me search, like HVAC near me or restaurant near me, because Google really highlights those types of searches. So we help them be online where people are searching for them. So whether it's actually through their website, their reviews, their video, just wherever people are searching for them and helping them to also incorporate AI into their business to make it more operational for them or make it easier, if you will.
You just mentioned something nearby. Does that only relate to actual physical businesses like HVAC or pest control or whatever it is, right? Or do you also use this for online businesses?
Well, it would mostly be people who service a specific area. So it could be an online business, but maybe you service Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's based upon the area that you service.
We had a prior conversation. You shared with me a very interesting story, and that is the story of facing change, adversity in your life. And you have been a very successful photographer, but in the age of AI, and especially with those, amazing cameras, there is a shift and change. So tell me what changed in your prior business that you have and how that all came about to now doing this one.
Yeah, so I met my husband. So I was minoring in photography in college, and I was looking for a photographer to work with the summer before my senior year because for some reason, and I don't know where this came from, but I was still in Indiana and I was going to move down to Georgia and I was going to open up a full service wedding gallery, with dresses and cakes and flowers and photography. I was going to offer the full service. And so I needed somebody to kind of show me the ropes of the wedding photography. And so I did find somebody and I assisted him for about 4 months. And then he offered to buy me a complete professional camera set so that I could start doing weddings for his studio. And so he did that. And I remember it was October and I did my first wedding and the pictures came back and he was like, "Oh, wow, these are great. You did so good." And I was like, well, yeah, because this is my future. And so, time goes by. We fell in love. We got married. We had 3 children. And by marriage, I became the marketing person for the studio. And at that point, you pretty much had two ways of reaching brides going to bridal shows, which were sometimes in a mall, which lasted all week, and sometimes just like a day or a weekend type thing. But you go and set up as much as you can at a booth and hope the right brides come by and get your information or you send postcards and hope that they don't hit the trash cans. And so I was very intrigued by when the internet and the websites and all those things came up. I was very intrigued with that process. It's like being open up just a whole new marketing field. So we were one of the first studios to use email marketing. We were one of the first studios to have a website. And so I've always been challenged with the technology and how it grows and the changes. And so when my husband retired from photography, I didn't want to stop doing what I was loving, and that was the online marketing. So I continue to do that now for businesses that service specifically like a location. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of challenge because especially now with AI, because I mean AI is changing weekly. And so it's just a lot of fun to keep up with it. And I really enjoy the challenge of it.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Number one, so that person who owned that photography studio bought your whole equipment. So I think he had an eye on you from the beginning.
Well, I'll
I
tell
wanted
you
to keep
what.
you longer.
Yeah. He teases me and says I never paid him back for that equipment, but I assure you, I've paid him back multiple times.
I love it. I love it. But you were already innovative back then when AI wasn't around, when the website first came. And I remember that too when I started my business, my performing arts school. We were the first ones who also had a website, like in especially in the dance and acting studios that were around. And I remember my brother-in-law who is in IT and he helped us build that. There was no such thing as like click this button and you have a poof. Today with AI, even like in a few seconds, you have your website. No, it was a process. And also when Google came around doing the searches. So I do remember those times. Now, there are some listeners who probably remember, but then others maybe not even.
What are you talking about?
Exactly. It was so hard. There was no such thing than cell phones that just came about the same time. So, but what you did is when you closed, why did you close the photography studio? Could you see declining business because of all the technology that is now in hands of everybody who wants to?
Yeah, there was a different level. I mean, when you were doing film, you really had to know what you were doing because film wasn't cheap and you had to get it processed and then you had to have pictures made. And so it was a more extensive process. And it would be a real bummer if you were overexposed or underexposed and or pictures didn't just come back and things like that. So you really had to understand and know your equipment, know what you were doing. And so I remember we got our first digital camera and it was made by Kodak. Kodak actually came out with the first digital camera
Hmm.
and it was not as good as the phone cameras we have now. And it was $25,000. It was a big investment, but we knew that we were one of the top studios and we had to be one of the first ones to get into the digital field. And so even then, it was an investment. I mean, you still had to be really ready to be committed to photography as a profession. So, which also brings me back to the idea that, Kodak was the first digital camera in the professional market, but they didn't continue with their research. They just kind of like fizzled out of the whole idea, and Nikon and Canon like jumped in there and like, oh, look what they're doing. And they really, really drove into the research and development of digital photography. And so what happened was, because Kodak didn't keep up, they slid behind. And I think they're still doing a little bit of stuff, but you don't hear about them like you did.
When you are a business owner, you have to keep up with change. And now with AI, even more so. And you mentioned before, AI is literally changing on a daily basis. How do you keep up with it?
Well, I think part of the concept is you need to find mentors that are steps ahead of you so that they are
Mhm.
with, they have more direct contact, if you will, with those that are making the advancements. And then they share that with us. And you're just knowing, just keeping up with, following them on YouTube and things of that nature, which, reminds me again, going back to the day, when we were learning how to do like websites and things like that, you didn't have like a YouTube where you could sit down for 20 minutes and go, oh, yeah, I know this. You had to go to a seminar. I mean, I remember going to one of my first seminars was on Facebook advertising. We met at a hotel in downtown Indianapolis and they talked about how to do it and all of this. Everything had a real investment as far as like time, travel, expenses. You had to be really committed to grow a business. And now you can learn these things just online, or people are sharing them. Like I recently came out with a course to teach people how to do what I do. And so people are willing to share these things, and you can go and you can learn how to do them. And I think that one of the things you need to keep in mind is that it's not your competitors that are going to run you out of business. It's not keeping up with technology, because
Yes.
people are expecting a customer service level that you can no longer do just by on person. You've got to incorporate the technology to keep up with the customer service and just what is adapting. Even if you're a roofer, things like that,
Mhm.
you have to keep up with the technology.
So, what are you teaching in your course?
Yeah, so the course has 8 modules to it. And we're going really in depth on like what your website needs to be able to do to even be able to rank. So the two top priorities is with Google is that you have to have a Google level mobile friendly website. So it's not like, oh yeah, I can see my website on a phone. It's like it's got to be Google level. So your buttons have to be a certain size. It has to be what they expect. And the other top thing is that it has to load up fast. Not just, oh yeah, I'm seeing it really quickly, but it's got to be Google speed.
Mm,
And so with that, 60% of the people are searching your information on their cell phones.
yeah.
And if you're not coming up fast and if you're not coming up where people can actually search through your website, Google's going to go like, yeah, you're not making it. You're going to just keep you down here. And so you're not going to be able to get up there. So there's
Uh,
certain things that your website needs to do. And then also we go through how to AI optimize your website. So that's a completely different process than just SEO. It's going to include adding additional pages, adding schema, just adding more information so AI finds you.
yeah.
And we have a whole module on video marketing, which video is so important for businesses now. Not only because Google owns YouTube, but Google and YouTube are the top 2 search engines out there. They're the most popular search engines. But the other thing is people, they want to know you more before they actually call you. And so if they're seeing you on videos and getting to know you and they like your personality, they like what you're sharing, you're building that relationship before they actually call you. So video is really important for businesses to grow.
You know that moment when you know your stuff, but the second you hit record or someone says, introduce yourself, your mind goes blank. Yeah, been there. That's exactly why I created the Confident Speaker Accelerator. In a short time, you'll stop rambling, stop shrinking, and start speaking with calm confidence on Zoom, on camera, on stage, and in sales conversations. You'll learn how to structure your message, tell stories that connect, and sound like the expert you already are. If you are ready to be clear, confident, and get more yeses without feeling salesy, come and join me. The link is in the show notes.
And then we also have a whole section on social media, how to use AI to do the work. Like right now, as we're talking, my AI is reaching out to people on Facebook and making friend requests.
Mm.
So it's not something where I have to sit there and do that all day. I have just set up where it's doing it for me.
Yeah, so many wonderful things that you said. So let me unpack that. Well, number one, AI is now reaching out to you. And I also noticed I get more inquiries to be on my podcast as a guest. And that is definitely, AI driven. I can see that. Okay, I want to unpack a couple other things. But for this particular thing, where comes the human element in that sets you apart from the others? So, to give you an example, keeping this example with wanting to be a podcast guest on my podcast, when I get an email that is hello and then Sabine Quenberg, that's first of all a giveaway, right? And then, yeah, we came across your podcast, and so everything very generic. But when I get an inquiry from a person saying, I listened to some of your podcast episodes and so mentioned this. I really enjoyed it. So, and by the way, I gave you a 5-star rating and wrote a review. Bet you these are the one that I call or reply back. So, because I know they did that extra work and they gave something before they took. So, how do you respond to this?
No, I agree. Some people are being very generic. And I think the problem there is that, okay, so the 5-star review, you do have to do that in person. Okay.
Hmm.
But especially if your podcasts are on YouTube, I can create a GPT where I could say, okay, scan the content of this and create this email. I could set that up where it does all of that through an AI. But the problem is that people are not training their AIs to be personal and to reflect their voice. They're using it very generically. And like when I get an email that says, I hope your day is going well. No, I'm not even gonna read your email, it's a delete. Because I know that obviously is there's certain things that AI will automatically do, and if you don't train it to be you and your voice, then it's gonna be too generic.
And you teach that in your course as well. That is fantastic. And I'll make sure that I have that link in the show notes. Yeah, so many exciting things. And one of the things that you said, okay, your website has to be Google friendly and not only SEO friendly, but also AI friendly. There are companies out there where you can build your website that are upfront with everything that has that kind of sort of incorporated, but some maybe build it themselves. Can you speak about that whole thing about website platforms, self, and the difference between SEO and AI combined?
That's a big question.
Let's
Okay,
break it down for
okay,
the simple, like entrepreneur who says, I just have to keep up with it, but it's just like explain it to a fifth grader, I would say.
okay. Well, first off, I really believe that WordPress sites are the way to go, because WordPress sites give you the ability to use plugins and also schema that can be read by the bots that crawl your sites and decide which ones are, because you have to keep in mind that these websites don't have the logic to like read your site and understand, well, this person does this real special or something like that. They're reading the content and the back language and they're just matching things. So if you don't match what people are searching for, then you're not going to come up for the searches. And so the SEO is still important. I mean, AI has not completely wiped out Google and Yahoo and whoever else you'd use for your searches, but it probably will be more aggressive within the next 2 years. So it's good to start working on those things now. And do I think that you'll need a website? I really do believe you still need a website, but you need to make a few adjustments in that website. In that you have to make sure that the website is answering the exact questions that people are asking, and that's where AI will find you. If somebody's searching a specific question, what's the best furnace for house in New York City? Because the winters are pretty harsh. If you have a page on your website that answers that question, then that matches the search. So that's Google says, oh yeah, that answers that question. And so they pull it up. It's not because you're the smartest person out there. You're not, it's not because you have the technology above everybody else. It's because you're answering the questions that people are searching. And that's where AI can come and help as far as like, just give me a list of all the questions people will ask about this specific furnace. And then you create pages and content that answers all those questions. So
That
the
is
schema is
brilliant.
still important because that's where Google searches and AI is learning the schema too. But also, this is
Can
again
you
where,
explain schemer for someone who does not know?
yeah, so schema is like a online language. So it's the best word that I can come up with. It goes inside the background of your website pages and it tells Google more specifically like what locations you are. It picks up, it's a more direct match on what people are searching with the Google language.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah. And then this is another thing too, where your video comes important. So if you create your page that answers that question, and then you create a video that answers that question as well, and you embed it on that page because Google's going to like you when you're embedding their YouTube on your website, but you embed that. You have 2 points here. First off, you're making a good match for the searches, but also the people who are now attention span small, less than a goldfish, which we are that way, they're going to
Yeah.
watch the video. So you're accommodating that too, which then flip back again on Google. Somebody's searching for this. If you don't come up with the AI search part in the top of Google, then Google's going to also see that you have a video that answers this. So below that, you might show up as the actual website search, and then your video itself might show up for that search. So it's
Mm,
just really expanding and understanding that people want to read 3 pages of content. They want it to be simple. They want bullet points. They don't want boggy paragraphs. They want to be able to skim things. It's just a whole process of getting the content that people are going to actually look at.
that is fantastic information. And I'm taking notes here mentally. So, I think I can improve this. But you're absolutely right. What I work with my clients is video presence, how to create an impactful video. Because as you mentioned earlier, people want to get to know you, your personality, want to get to know, can I work with this person? Do I trust this person? Because we know like and trust factors is utterly important. And how we show up on video, our presence makes a huge difference. Now, when you marry those together, so you have a very high function a website where you incorporate the SEO and the AI. And then you have the videos that are also very powerful in you presenting or teaching, whatever it is. I think that is the winning combination here.
Yes. Yeah. The other thing too is AI can now have your business open 24/7 because you can put now they have a voice chat bot. So, I am not a fan of like trying to type and talk to a chat bot because I don't like when it says, because I know it's scheduled out and I know it wants you to answer these specific questions to get to the final point, what they want. But if you have a voice chat bot that's trained in your business, it just has a regular conversation with the person and they just talk to it. And that can be programmed to where it follows your sales system. So maybe the goal is to schedule an appointment, or maybe the goal is to send out a sample. I have one that is for a tea company, and the voice chat bot will get their address and information and offer to send a bag to them. And so the person just goes in the back system, gets the address and sends out that tea sample. And so it can actually follow your sales program. And the thing is that people don't visit your website just from 9 to 5. They're after the kids go to bed or, in the or morning before work, they think, "Oh, I need to do that." And if you can pick up those extra touches after hours, then it's definitely a way to grow your business.
Yeah, yeah. That is brilliant information. I'm sure that people who are listening to this have some aha moments here and say, well, I need to learn more. And they certainly can when they go to your website. Now, my last question to you is I always like to understand and know how people go through challenging times or overcoming adversity in their business or in their life for that matter, and how they get through it so that we can also learn and understand. First of all, I'm not alone, but then also, hey, this is how she or he did it. Maybe I can apply some of those things. So, my question to you is, if you think back to a situation, either in your personal or business life, that was really challenging, or you ask yourself or question yourself, how can I get through? And how did you get through and overcame it?
Well, okay. So, first off, I'm a Christian. So, my first step is just to lean in on God to get through the really tough points. But, even just this past weekend, I was feeling overwhelmed because I have so many things to do. I have my podcast, I have a business, I have clients that I need to take care of. And I was just like feeling overwhelmed, feeling like I'm not using my time well. So I actually, may sound weird to people, but I actually went in and created a GPT, and which is a system, a part of Chat GPT. And I told it, I said, okay, here's what I'm working on. I have all these things, and I had like 10 things that I was listing on that was just overwhelming me. And I was like not feeling like I was moving. And I said, I'm going to give you my calendar, and I want you to give me time spots where I can get these things done and accomplish my goals. And then I gave it my 6 main goals for this quarter. And it actually came up and plugged in times in my calendar. Like, okay, during this time, reach out to 12 people on LinkedIn. At this time, post one of your podcasts, and it was just a relief knowing that those things were on my calendar and that I don't have to think about how am I going to get this done. And it's just really fun how you can like, okay, and here's another fun thing that I did. So we have a son in Massachusetts and we have 2 sons in North Carolina where we are. And we don't get family vacations all together too often. So I was like, okay, this year is going to be family vacation. So I went into ChatGPT and I said, okay, so I have North Carolina, I have Massachusetts. I gave them how many grandchildren there were, how many adults, age ranges, dietary options. We have one grandson who's autistic. So I explained, how important it was to me to make sure that we all were together and not like at a theme park where we all separated. I didn't want to cook. I don't want an Airbnb where I have to cook. And so I said, give me 5 options that a meet in the middle section that we could have. It would have taken me hours to research that. I mean, I literally would have, and I don't even know that I would still have found the perfect place, but it came up with 5 places for us to go. We chose a place, it's known as the summer camp for families in West Virginia, and it's, like, perfect. They have meals, they have great places to stay, they have like, summer camp activities throughout the day, and it's just saved me so much time, and it found, like, the perfect location. So I think that, just embrace the technology and think of all the different ways you can use it.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest problem for most people. They only use it for like a Google search, basically, right? And there's so many more intricate ways they can do it. I just recently finished teaching a workshop at a conference how using AI to go from idea to offer, right? The right prompts, but also working with you. So which is great because you have to learn how to prompt it in the right way. And then of course how to set up your chat GPT under special instructions so you can train it. So I've been working with chat GPT now for 3 years or so. Pretty much started exploring when it first came out, but then I trained it so ChatGPT knows everything about me now, which is scary, but but it helps when you start, coming up with programs. And even I do some personal questions. Now, if you can explain to our listeners if they want to explore that. I know on ChatGPT there are GPTs that are already pre-assigned, you can choose it, but how do you create your own GPT? So what is the difference? Can everybody do it, or does it has to be a professional person?
No, anybody can do it. You know what the best tip is? Use chat to create a GPT.
Bingo. Hey, chat, create my
I want to
GPT.
create a GPT. This is what I want it to do. What questions do you have? And it will ask you questions. And then, all right, give me the exact prompt for this GPT. You might tweak it, and it's like, well, I really want it to do more of this. But yeah,
Mhm.
use Chat GPT to create a GPT on chat.
Yeah, yeah. And what is the benefit or the difference just using ChatGPT or creating your own GPT?
So the GPT which it's already programs, and it also remembers the whole conversation. So, and it's also something that you could share with somebody. So, like with the course, I have some GPTs that I created that I can share with other people. So it's just it'll be consistent. Like I have a GPT. The one thing I hate about adulting is trying to figure out what to cook every day. So I know it sounds like I'm like, I'm done with this. So I have a GPT where I gave it, our dietary issues. I want to lose 20 pounds by June, all our health issues. And then I tell it what's in the refrigerator, what's in the cupboard. And it just tells me what we're eating that day. Like this morning we had eggs on avocado and toast, which was great. It's like, but the 4 or 5 minutes for me to decide, "Ugh, what are we gonna do? Okay, I have avocado," it's just nice to have something just to say, "Hey, this is what you have, do this."
Right, right. Well, I have my own GPT. It's called husband. He loves to cook. And, I mean, I cook too, but it's not I don't take the time. I just don't have the passion for it. And he does. And I love what he creates. He uses a lot of inspiration and just like cooking intuitively. So I love that.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
that's a
yeah,
blessing. I do not have
yeah.
that that GPT. My husband just expects the meal to be sit in front of him.
Lois, oh, this was such a wonderful conversation and so much wisdom and so many great pieces of advice and information that you shared.
You.
Thank you so much. So, is there anything that I haven't asked you or somewhat last little bit you want to share with my audience?
Well, my growing up, my father always said, "Work smarter, not harder." And we're in a point now where the computer and the AI can actually make your workday shorter, and if you're using it in a smart way. So embrace it. It's like, are you still riding a horse and carriage? No, this is a point of the future. And if you're a business owner, you need to embrace it and grow with it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here, Lois, and all the best to you.
Thank you. It was a blessing to be here. I really appreciate it.